Hello everyone, this is DavidViadel23 and welcome to the Mandragon's Cave. Today we are gonna be learning about textures, okay? This is a video aimed for people who is trying to start in the world of drawing, okay? I have a playlist, it's getting large, okay? Have several videos that I'm gonna put here where you will learn how to draw faces, bodies, learn about silhouette, learn about line of action, what is, expressions, for example, in a character, step by step, very easy for beginners in how to introduce yourself into the world of drawing. Today we are gonna do textures, okay? So, like we did the other day, I wanna start, let's say, maybe we can do here in this side. Let's say a rectangle, okay, to start. You don't need any kind of fancy material. We are just gonna be using pencil today, okay? Pencil and paper. So let's, for example, say that we are gonna cut this piece in 3, okay? When we are doing textures, the textures are gonna help us to explain something or to show something. Let's say that we are needing some kind of shadowing, and that shadowing is going to be supported as well by textures, and we want to learn to do different textures ourselves. So, for example, let's say you can start to practice first before doing an exercise to do something like this, okay? Where I'm creating a linear pattern here that later, depending on how many lines, how close they are, okay, or if I do more on top, this could be a floor of something, okay? There is as well a very famous concept, a puntillism concept in drawing, that basically you will do dots like this. I'm 100% sure that you done this exercise in art class when you were a kid, okay? And if you are a kid right now, probably you are doing these exercises at class, okay? So with puntillism, for example, and there's techniques obviously in painting about this, how, great masters of painting, they used to do full paintings like this. You will create dots, like small dots all over the place, and as well you can change the density. Here I want more, here I want less, to create a gradient, like we practiced the other day what is a gradient that I'm gonna put here as well, okay? And this is another type of texture, for example, okay? Everything is about constancy and being patient in the texture that we want to do. Nowadays, as well, if you happen to be a 3D artist and you want to learn about textures and how to create textures, but you are more technical, there is a software called Substance belonging to the Adobe collection as well, and this is what we use in computer games, in video games, in movies, to create the textures on the 3D models, okay? Call it a character, call it a building, a tree, anything, okay? So, this is basically the same principle, but transferred into 3D. But here I'm just trying to explain the very basic. So you have a couple of exercises that you can do on your own time, or slow in this video and do it here as well. So you see, we have a lot of dots, creating a texture here, a lot of lines, creating a texture here. And then we can play, okay, we can play with other, like I want to do, for example, let's say, like this, faster, okay? Or maybe this could be rain, for example, okay? Or maybe you want to do something like this, that is going to be the bottom of the sea, you're going to have some texture at the bottom of the sea, for example, okay? All is about playing with lines, playing with shapes, playing with dots to achieve what you want to achieve in the material, okay? It can be as well something like this. All of this could be texture. If you want to translate this to real life, okay, you can look into anything. Your table, the desk that you are drawing today. You go into the kitchen and you see the counter. What color is it? What material is it? How is the drawing in this material looking? Okay? You wanna look into the trunk of a tree, a rock, for example. Okay? Everything has a texture. Your skin, here you see my skin has like tiny texture as well, like little squares, little triangles and everything, shaping what is the skin. And then we have another texture that is a little bit of hair here and there. We have more texture that will be the veins, for example. If you would be working, creating a character, for example, you will go by layers. Let's say I'm gonna do a texture for the skin, I'm gonna do a texture for the veins. I'm gonna do a texture for, you know, the freckles, for example, another texture for the hair. You will do all these steps. It is maybe easier to see when you are working on a computer because you can separate those layers, those pages in different levels, so all of them are independent, and then you can mix them all. But here, to explain this very easy, any kind of shape that you are practicing here is a texture. It will become a texture, okay? Everything has a texture. This paper, even if it is completely white, if you zoom in, okay, or you take your phone and you zoom in here, you will see there's tiny, tiny, tiny lines creating the paper like this and like this, okay, to create what is the paper, okay? So let's say, because obviously it is about learning how to draw, and textures are thousands and thousands of textures. Let's try to apply this to an object, okay? For example, I want to say this is a rectangle, okay? I created a rectangle here, but this is gonna be a shelf, for example, okay? In my comic, this is gonna be a shelf. So this shelf, what material is gonna be? Let's say wood, no? We want wood. So then I can explore outside in the outside world with my phone and take some pictures of different types of woods. I can check online and check different types of woods as well. But to create something like a pattern, if you do these irregular lines like this, for example, and then do the circles like this, then you have there a piece, okay, that perfectly in your comic could be a piece of wood, okay? This is a cut, like a plank, not worked. You can add some, let's say, breaking points here, some textures here that are a little bit breaking, okay? And then we have our shelf, okay? That later, for example, we are gonna want to put, let's say, a bottle or something like this, okay, here. Remove a little bit. We want to put a bottle, for example. We'll do the shape, and we will try to play with the shape, okay, like this, creating a texture like this, like I'm trying to simulate a curve. I'm doing like a line like this. I'm not painting like straight, okay? So if I am doing a line like this is another texture. I'm gonna simulate something like my bottle that I'm putting here. It's a little bit three-dimensional, okay? It has a little bit of curve there, okay? Not thinking about what's inside or what's not inside at the moment, it's just thinking about the texture that we are adding to this object, okay? Let's say, for example, another thing that we want to do, let's say that I have this shape here, okay, this irregular shape, and let's say this is going to be a rock, okay? So I'm going to play then with the lines. I'm going to be breaking the lines like this, something like this, okay? And this could perfectly be a rock, okay? We can add, for this texture that I created here, we can add smaller textures around, like, let's say like a little bit like this, okay? Or a little bit like this, creating a pattern, okay? Obviously, you see this exercise is kind of blending the exercise of the gradient, where I am kind of doing one line, one tone, and on top of this, another tone, like this, okay? To create some shadowing, and then again, more texture here. Okay, like this. And then we think that maybe the light is here, you know, the light is hitting us here, and we have this patterned rock that is gonna be next to the river or in a place that we wanna put something on top, or someone is gonna be sitting here. It can be smaller, it can be bigger. So this is a kind of more mixing with the gradient concept, okay? But if you want to focus in textures themselves, okay, you can choose different type of shapes, okay? We're going to do another rock that is going to be like this, for example. Okay, we create another pattern here, like this. All of these are patterns, okay? Like this. And then we say, okay, this one specific, I don't want to play with the gradient idea. I want to focus in what it would be texture, okay? So then I'm going to follow this idea here. I'm going to do lines. This is something that you will see a lot in comics, specifically, and I would say specifically in American comic, because they work a lot of the texture. Japanese manga as well. there's as well some papers that have textures, predefined textures, like the small dots, the small lines, that you can stick on top of your drawing and then cut the shape that you want. This is something heavily used in manga, or used to be used a lot in manga before the arrival of computers and things, to create all of these different tones, different textures, or different gradients, okay? So let's say here, instead of doing something more blended for the gradient, I want to do clean lines like this, okay? I'm painting this with lines, and then I'm gonna make a little bit here as well. We have a texture there, and then we will try to do the other direction to create like a cross design, like a lot of squares, tiny squares like this, okay? I don't want to reach to the very top because we are adding a little bit of differentiation here, okay? Like this, you see? And then we will have there another type of rock, that it could be like a monolith, it could be another thing. Then let's say, for example, that in this piece, playing about textures, you know, playing with the textures, we say, oh, this is sitting here with in the grass, let's say, okay? So then, to differentiate a little bit from this one, I'm gonna press a little bit more. You could add some textures like this to create a little bit of grass around, okay? And don't be fixated in doing all the lines perfect. The beauty in drawing, in my opinion, is about the imperfection, the irregular. When you go out and have a walk in nature, you are looking at trees, looking at the river, looking at the sea, looking at the rocks. Nothing is completely straight, nothing is completely clean cut, okay? The rocks are irregular, have multiple faces, okay? The grass is different. One piece of grass, one tiny bit, can be different to another one, okay? You can have things going on. You can have smaller rocks, for example, around like this, that you are gonna be texturing as well and creating some designs, okay? Let's say in this, for example, in this example, for environment in comic, let's say, okay, you would say, oh, okay, in this area, I want my grass to be a little bit higher. I'm gonna create some kind of flowers here to add to this texture, okay? So, when you are creating a comic, and you can encapsulate this inside your texture concept, you will say, what area I'm designing? Is this tropical? Is this a desert, for example? What type of textures I'm gonna use? You can create a library of textures in your sketchbook. This is a sketchbook, a bunch of papers together, okay? That are gonna serve me as a guide. When I need something, I can come back here to this sketchbook while I'm designing my story, okay? Obviously, you will have information about everything, but specifically talking about textures, you can gather textures around you, okay? You can find an old t-shirt at home that is being used for cleaning now, it is not used anymore, but there's small pieces with interesting textures. You can cut it and stick it in your sketchbook. Interesting texture, okay? Then you can see this texture is another texture that I could cut, for example, and put it here as a reference for me, because when I want to create, let's say, a sofa, something more delicate, something more elegant, I will use this felt type of texture, for example, okay? Then you can create squares like this, okay? Many of these squares, pages of these squares, a lot of cuttings from magazines, from, you know, printed online as well, and have like a library for you of information. Let's see that you are traveling, or you are gonna visit some friends, you are gonna visit your grandparents, anyone, and you are not next to your computer to draw and have these references close to you, or you don't have your phone because you are in a place that you don't have much connection, for example, you can have your sketchbook with you and see all the things that you need to see, okay? We have done some kind of objects, let's say here, you know, like a shelf, a bottle, a couple of rocks, a little bit of grass. This is applied for everything, I would say. When we are, for example, drawing faces, okay? Because we have been doing character design here all the time, okay? I'm gonna do just a very quick an easy face here, following the instructions that we had in the original video for this. Okay, let's say that this is our guy here. Okay, for example, this is our guy. He's a very upset guy, okay, because he's, I don't know, he's fighting or something, some enemies, no? This is a guy who is in a fighting situation, and then as I explained as well in the video about drawing the faces and the expressions, the texture is gonna help us to emphasize how upset the character is, how happy the character is, what can we do with the face, for example, okay? Let's say that we want this guy to be fighting, no, and very upset. We can emphasize the expression like this, and then we can help with some textures, some lines here, okay, that are gonna make him, okay, even like this. When Luffy is fighting, Luffy is the main character in One Piece, okay, let's do like a hat or something here. He's wearing like a hat or something. We see, okay, how the power of the texture is gonna give us another reading of this face, for example, okay? Depending on what you want to draw, you need to think about the textures that you want to use, okay? So I think this concept can be applied for everything. I am focusing more in objects in this case because you may be able to see it easier with this, like the wood, the rocks, for example, the stone. Okay, let's say, for example, that you want to do now something different, okay? Metal, for example, that is a little bit more complicated, okay? And you don't need to go into these details now. First, it's better if you practice something like this, like wood, a little bit of a stone. You have this chart, okay, this guide of different textures that you may find around. Lines, crossing lines, dots, you know, some kind of scribbles like this. Okay, try different type of exploration. Try to do one full page, divide the page, let's say, in 9, 12 pages, in each, you know, any kind of parts that you want, and try to do different, that you think it could be very random, okay? But for example, let's say that I have, this is gonna be some sort of pole, no? Let's say that this is a light on the street, for example, and then we need to understand as well the gradient will be mixed here. I'm doing lines sew together that are creating these gradients here, okay? In a second I will show you how this can work with a pen, okay, to see more details, more fine details, okay? Something like this, creating lines, blending the lines together, that is gonna give us a texture, okay, to create something that later, if we continue working in this tone, we can create this kind of seamless effect, okay? Let's say, for example, that I have 005 pen here, okay? So, let's say I'm gonna be trying, for example, this exercise. This is a circle, okay? I'm gonna be trying this exercise with the dots here, where I am gonna define with the texture what is the light. The light, I want the light to come from here, okay? So I'm gonna leave this one without any kind of texture, but I'm gonna do a first pass. We're gonna follow the same pattern that we followed with the gradients, okay? We're gonna do one layer, one pass of dots, okay? Trying to be more or less regular. Because we want this to be a circle, we're gonna try to attempt to do some sort of curve here, like this, okay? This exercise, I'm 100% sure that you done it at school, okay? So, as you can see, with these textures, this puntillism technique that we are using at the moment, now we have a sphere there, okay? This sphere is not done with a gradient like we've done with a pencil before, that is like this, okay? A consistent tone. This is just dots, okay? Now we want to do more 3D effect into this a sphere to create even more texture on top. Okay, so we will start from here, because the light is in this side, so we will start from the opposite side, okay, from this side. And we will start doing another layer of dots, okay? This layer, this second layer, it is not gonna touch this line, it's gonna go maybe half of the way through. We are gonna make it more or less, let's say, until here. More or less until here, more or less until here, okay? So we will do another pass of dots like this, okay? I know this seems very easy, very silly, but this is something that you will use when you are drawing your comics, okay? When you are drawing your stories, when you are making your characters coming to life. You need to find your technique, and to find your technique, you need to try some of them, okay? Maybe you like more the pencils, the color pencils, and to do painting, no? Maybe you want to use this in a canvas, and instead of doing dots, you want to do splashes of paint, for example. Here, in my case, because using pen, these techniques are very useful. If you are reading One Piece, okay? If you're a fan of One Piece, I'm gonna leave you here a collection of videos, because half of the channel here in this YouTube channel is about One Piece, talking about theories, drawing characters, and you will see how many of them, because it is manga, it is a drawing, okay, and they play with tones, with linear, okay, linears, and tones, you will see a lot of textures like this, okay? So we have clearly here one level and a second level, okay? This is much more visible here face to face than on the camera, but let's say that we want to add a tiny bit more, okay, just for the sake of having more contrast, a little bit more of contrast. So we will do the same, but instead of going to this limit, we will go only just a little bit here, okay? A third pass only here, dots, 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 like this. Only in this line here, okay? At the very bottom, to create an effect. Very obvious effect here, as we can see. One tone, that is the white, two tone, that is my, let's say, gray, a third tone, that is this darker tone, and then a darker tone here at the bottom. 4 tones, we achieved a gradient by only using texture. In this case, dots, in this case, puntillism, okay? There are a group of painters, okay, a movement in painting from some time ago called the Expressionists, and you will see how these people, with textures on the canvas, they are gonna create environments, characters, and everything. So when you go to the museums and you see paintings that are from far very visible, oh yes, this is a field with some trees, very nice, but when you get close, everything is like a mix of colors and things. You can see how this painting is done in intention to be seen from far as well, to be understood from the distance as well, okay? And you can appreciate the different textures that are used within the paint, okay? Great artists, for example, like Edvard Munch or Vincent van Gogh, for example, are characters that you can find their work in a lot of museums, okay? And you can see, when you see these paintings from far, how they look like they're moving because the texture work is incredible there, okay? So as you can see, this can be applied to painting, to drawing, to comic, okay, that it looks more linear, more clean when drawing. You can apply this to any kind of technique. And if you happen to be in the world of 3D, in the world of video games, in the world of movies, you can see this as well applied through software, let's say like Substance, for example, okay? Blender as well, it's a free software as well that allows you to create things like this, to paint characters in 3D as well, okay? So the very important thing here is that you observe the world around you, okay? Let's, for example, create another shape, let's say here, with the pen, okay? Like this, and it's gonna be a irregular shape. Like this, It could be anything, okay, but I'm making this with the intention to be some sort of water, okay? So if this is gonna be water and I'm gonna be playing with textures, okay, we can start thinking, oh, what type of water is gonna be? Is gonna be like muddy water? Is gonna be very clear water, for example? Like on the sea, it's gonna be darker tones, a little bit more brighter tones. So you can say that there is reflection in this water, no? And you just want to do some basic lines. Let's say, for example, that you want to create something like this, okay? So like this. I'm not doing anything clear. I'm not doing anything like the sea or like a lake. As I work, I carry on working, okay? For example, talking about water, talking about rivers. Oh my god, this is muddy, it's not muddy. What is gonna be this? Okay, I can add some things going on there, okay? Some textures here and there, small lines, small things, creating things like this, okay? A little bit of grass, let's say, maybe around. And this, for me, it's like a little bit of magic, like a pool of magic, okay? That it's, you know, maybe toxic even. If we paint it green, it will be like some kind of place that you fall and you may be intoxicated, you are trapped maybe, you know. Like depending on what you wanna do, you can create these designs or another design. You wanna do lava, for example, lava as well, very thick kind of design to make pieces like maybe like this, and then like that, and then stretches like this, and then you will continue, and then you will add how this is gonna be working, and then we will do some lines like this. For example, you can have the freedom that you want, obviously always, because you don't have lava in your kitchen, for example, or in your garden. You need to see references, let's say online or from books, how that looks, no? You can say that, oh, I'm gonna combine these textures, okay, like this, to create the tones, and then I'm gonna add, let's say, my orange color here to do this. But all of this that we're doing, as you can see, independently, all the color that I'm gonna be painting, orange, let's say, because it's gonna be lava, or green, because it's gonna be some kind of putrid hole that is kind of toxic, doesn't matter. You need to work with the textures first to give an impression of what you want to represent, you want to convey here, okay? Check materials like marble, check materials like gold, for example, like copper as well, and see how they look. Try to open an image on the computer and try to simplify that piece of gold, okay, that it looks like a rock. Try to simplify these lines like a vein in your hand, like a vein, and then say, oh, this is gonna be looking more like yellow, and I'm gonna do a circle to create the shine. Or this is gonna be looking more like a toast color, okay, like amber color, okay, because it's darker. Observe the world around you and try to do this exercise, okay? Let's say, for example, that you want here, we're gonna have some lines like this, okay? Next to our rock that we have created, we're gonna expand these textures here, creating a little bit more of grass, okay? A little bit more of rocks around, like this, okay? As you can see, different textures, and it's expanding my environment, my rock with this grass expanding here. And what I'm doing here, you see? What I'm doing here? More texture to create like a line here, okay? And then all of this, just by me doing a couple of lines like this, a couple of lines for texture here, this could perfectly be a stream of water, okay? There can be some circles, like there is someone who jumped here on the water, okay? Someone jumped in there, okay? And trying to situate, more or less, okay? As well, play with this gradient, with these textures, play with different sizes. So some of these parts are gonna have shorter or smaller grass. Some others are gonna have longer type of grass here as well, okay, like this. Okay, so as you can see, I'm gonna move this a little bit. As you can see how we are expanding our drawing, this is how you learn the basics, exploring what's around you and trying to represent it in a paper. Don't worry if this doesn't look real at all, okay? First, understand the fundamentals, okay? Let's say like this. This is gonna be all grass, but there is a circle here, okay? For example, there is a circle there. What can that circle be, for example? Okay, anything. So let's do that. I want to create something that is here. Let's say like a can of something that I'm gonna create this different type of texture. We're gonna do the lines for inside and paint the inside like this. Okay, there is someone here with a metallic can. That's why we are doing vertical and horizontal. Okay, that is gonna do something for a picnic, for example. It's gonna make a tiny fire here, let's say a tiny fire. Okay, and we will create more textures here to simulate that we have there some sort of movement under this, and then some smoke, for example. Okay, that the smoke, we can paint it like this. We can simulate textures with the smoke as well, like this. You need to explore and try to simplify all of this, looking at the clouds, the texture of the clouds, the texture of the garden outside, the grass, everything, the mountain, the rocks, okay? Something like this, okay? And then more things are going on. As you can see, we are not, apart from the pot, we are not defining much a shape. We are going with the flow, doing a small texture, small lines here and there to create our environment in this case. You can do the same thing for painting or designing a face. Let's say that this is my guy that we said before, okay, and the guy is he's very upset because he's fighting, okay, so I want him to have these lines here, line, more lines, okay, like this. And look at this, how he is, just with the texture, is bringing more emphasis in how upset he is, okay? More lines, more together, will create a new texture on top, a darker texture, that is going to emphasize even more how upset my character is. You see, only by doing one eye, is like, oh, this guy is fighting, or this guy is a bad guy, for example, okay? There are things, or type of textures that you can use in different shapes to create something more sweet, something more aggressive, something more comedy, something more horror, okay? All of these things, obviously, we can explore it in another video. But just for the initial idea of understanding how these work, you have plenty of designs here. Let's say that, for example, maybe this is going to be the last one. We have this area here. Okay, and I'm defining, let's say, a block of something here, okay, on the right hand side. Oh, this block is gonna be a wall, one of those medieval walls that have rocks like this, okay, and then another rock like that, and then like this, okay, and I'm gonna just sketch very quick some big rocks that are like this, like that, okay? Can be a wall, it can be a path on the street because it's like cobbled, for example, when you go to a place like Oxford, Cambridge, for example, central London, you have areas that they have the floor like this, with textures, with stones, okay? Or the churches, for example, if you go into a church, you see how some of them are done like this as well, all the churches, and you see all these cobblestones, okay? So we see, we have a texture there, okay? We created a basic texture, and then we want to add more. We want to create, let's say, the rocks themselves, in my mind, are gonna have a little bit of texture, like this, okay? All of them are gonna have a little bit of texture. I am not gonna be adding texture in between. Why? Because I wanna do that another texture. This one is rock. My rocks in my comic, all of the rocks are gonna have this kind of linear type of design for the texture. For example, this is just an example, okay? It doesn't have to be real. It needs to look something interesting. It could be realistic, it could be not realistic, could be magical, okay? Like this. So you see, all of the rocks are starting to appear here. I want to just do them all the same, so I have consistency in what I'm trying to draw. All of them with the same pattern, with the same texture, okay? So I understand that they are the same material. If you will be doing this with 3D technique, let's say in a software, in the computer, you will have the material separated in a, let's say, bundle, in a circular bundle, in a ball, and then you will click on the texture and you apply to 1 rock, 2 rocks, 3 rocks, and all of them will look the same, okay? But let's say that the inside, this kind of material, that it could be any kind of material, okay, to connect all of these lines, I want to be dots, because this is what it's gonna be. My texture is gonna be more like cement, maybe something harder, something more compact, okay, that is gonna glue together all my rocks to create this wall, or to create this path on the street in Oxford where people is walking in the middle of the night and it looks a little bit, you know, romantic, let's say. So I want to create this texture, okay? So all the gaps in between the rocks are gonna have this texture. You see that with the texture is helping my design to enhance my design. Let's say that you are doing a webtoon, your comic is online, you starting doing your stories and showing them to people, but you don't paint. I'm very bad at painting. You can use textures. If you are good at drawing, you can say, oh, I'm gonna try to do lines and dots and create the texture for my characters, for the walls, for the houses, for the animals, okay? Animals is something that we haven't even talked about here yet, but with the same concept of the grass, you can be doing hair as well, okay? So let's say, it's very just random here, no? I think in my idea, in my story, because there is more compact areas between the rocks, maybe I should add more dots here, okay, to between the rocks, closer to the connection of all the rocks. I will add more, because I want them to be more consistent there. Okay, that's interesting. Like this, you see? No rush. Just trying to do a texture there, trying to do something interesting, okay? Obviously, all of this is about practice. You can practice on a separate paper. If you don't like it for your comic, you can create another texture and continue your story, okay? But like this, okay? This piece of wall, let's say, that piece of wall could have some things on top, obviously. Open your mind that this is just a cut that I'm doing like this. I'm just doing a square, so I don't leave it loose. But like here, let's forget about this line. Let's forget about the encapsulation of the square. We continue here the rock, okay? Okay, this one is gonna fall here, okay? We have more, and then maybe we have another one here on top, okay? Like this. Just to break a little bit the line here on this side. And then we say, actually, there is a little bit of moss. That I'm gonna create some texture here to create some moss on top, because we are in Scotland and I'm walking in the middle of the fields, in the middle of the mountains here, and it has a little bit of moss like this, okay? For example, it's gonna have moss here, and all of this is textures. All of this is what I'm doing here, like this, is scribbles like this, okay? Like I'm doing here, like this here, you see? It's just like this. And then what I'm doing on the top, like simulating a little bit of grass, like we've been doing here, like we have been doing here. A couple of lines, a couple of lines, a couple of dots, like there is something there, like some sort of decoration there, okay? Like this. Obviously, this is more applied to environment because it's easier to see through environment, okay? But it can be applied to faces. You want to use the face to do a scar, that's going to be a texture, because my character here, okay, was you know, he was the target of an electric attack, and he's gonna have like a scar that is a pattern. It's a texture as well that I am applying to my character. Okay, that is here, like this. Okay, and I'm playing this other card in my character, like his eye was impacted by thunder, by electricity, and it looks like this, like breaking like this. Okay. There are endless possibilities to create textures and endless possibilities to tell your story. Okay? You can use different techniques, you can use different textures to try to achieve to tell the same story, okay? But always it will be a little bit different. If I see something, let's say, have you watched that series, very nice series on Netflix called Arcane from the League of Legends video game? Those guys play a lot with colors instead of patterns, and patterns as well on top of colors, so they can paint the 3D characters that they are like they are in a painting, like Art Nouveau, for example, okay? Very beautiful. But there are other type of stories, other type of, like for example, League of Legends itself, it's stylized in a way that the colors are more cut, are more linear, okay? Because for the video game, it's easier and it occupies less space than if I'm painting everything. When I add more details into a, let's say, 3D project or 2D project, that means it will be heavier. The file, it will be heavier. Here, we don't have that problem with pencil and paper and pen, okay? Different type of materials, okay? Observe animals for textures. The fur of a bear is not gonna be looking like the feathers of a bird, okay? So try to do a feather, for example. Let's say that I wanna do a feather like this, okay? And then this one is gonna have linear work like this, linear work like this. And because this type of bird is blah blah blah, I don't understand about birds, but it's gonna have this line here, okay? These lines here is the design of this specific type of bird, okay? But let's say that this, in this area, this is fur for an animal, okay? You're gonna make it like reddish, it's gonna be for a fox. You're gonna make it more darker, for example, for a wolf, for a bear, for example, for a dog, okay? Is this gonna be curling like this? Textures curling, because it is a Cocker Spaniel, for example. It is gonna be more thin like this because it's a Yorkshire Terrier, I don't know, okay? Just take pictures of the animal, see how many textures you can find in this hair. Maybe you have a dog at home, you have a cat at home, you have a parrot, any kind of bird, okay? You have a hamster. You can see all these different interactions of textures, okay? Observe. This homework is for you today, is to observe around the house, when you walk to a school, when you walk to work, okay? Observe around you and see what type of textures you can find on the wall, okay? On the bus, on the street, on the floor, on the park, next to the water, next to the river, for example, okay? A bench. If it is a bench made of wood, what type of wood? Is like this wood, like a trunk, or it is DM wood that is more plain and is made of compact wood, okay? The key, the secret, the mystery of learning drawing, and specifically for the textures, or specifically to learn how to do any kind of drawing, is observation. Be looking around everywhere. I can guarantee you're not gonna find two textures that are exactly the same, okay? You are not the same like your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, your friend, okay? You are not the same, you are different. So a tree is not gonna be looking like another tree. If you try to draw a specific tree and you wanna be hyper realistic and you start drawing the trunk, okay? Like for example, here, maybe this tree is gonna be like this, and then it's gonna have a twist, a curl here, and a branch here that I'm gonna be texturing as well, like this. Without defining a shape, just doing textures like this, up and down, another curl here, okay? that tree, okay, is not gonna be looking the same like another tree that I'm gonna be doing, because this is a palm tree, for example, and the palm tree has these kind of lines when you peel them, so they're growing nicer and healthier. When you peel them a little bit, when you trim them, they're gonna have this kind of texture, okay, like a leg of a bird or something like that. And they will have a little bit of hair. It could be looking like hair, but it's not hair, obviously. It's like from the same tree that it has this texture, okay? And then we're gonna have there, obviously, the top of the tree. So two trees, different textures, not the same, okay? Not the same. Any kind of rock that you're gonna be finding around as well, they will have textures. If you go to the beach because you're living close to the water or to the river, you will see some kind of shells, okay? These shells, all of them are gonna be different, gonna have different textures, okay? Like this, and on top of that they are going to be having as well different colors, different tones, different gradients. Inside they are going to be a little bit more let's say thinner at the touch, and the outside are going to be more like textury to protect themselves, okay, because that is the shell of someone living in there, okay? So they're going to be more rough on the outside to protect themselves and more comfortable inside to live, okay, and to accommodate something in there. Take those objects from real life and transform them into your fantasy stories. That could be a house, that could be a shield for a mini Viking that is traveling from here. Just create your stories, observing the reality. Do your exercises with textures, observing the reality. As you can see, we have done multiple activities here that you can practice at home. All of them beginners level squares with different textures that you can find around the house. Simple. Okay? Apply these textures to create some wood, to create some rocks, to make some grass. You can make this circular shape and try to make it a little bit like a 3D with puntillism, for example, okay? Adding another layer, following the gradients video that we done in the following week, okay? You can try to apply this to your characters as well, to emphasize if the character is upset or is happy, or if there is more tension in the scene and thunder is falling from the sky, your clouds are going to be darker and your clouds are going to have these lines, like they are going to, you know, recharging all the electricity to do a crazy thunderstorm, for example, okay? You are walking in your story and it's a fantasy, or you are on the forest, or this is like Scotland, whatever, and you have all these textures here. And on top of that, my rock is going to have some circles because I want them to have an extra design, okay? All of this is exploration, okay? And when you are drawing your story, it's nice to have it handy, because let's say that your character, your main character, is traveling from his own town to another place, and this other place is different, is far away, okay? He's never been into the jungle, so there are gonna be plants that he has never seen with textures that he has never seen. Are you gonna remember all those textures when in 20 episodes later you come back to this forest, to this jungle, because you need to pass and pick up something from there to make a potion? You cannot remember all of the textures, all of the plants, all of the animals in there. You can have this type of Bible. It's called a Bible, when you have like a place that you can come back outside of your story and you can check your sketchbook, your book, and say, okay, I remember that in the jungle I had this and this animal, this and these textures, and because there is some sort of magical power, the fur of the animals is purple. It's not actually gray, reddish, brown, it is purple, okay? So you need to define these things, clarify textures that you want to use. If you use them cleverly, they can save your day. They can save your day 100%, okay? So I think I may have overloaded you with plenty of information. Feel free to ask any kind of question regarding this video or other videos in the show more section. I'm gonna be more than happy to answer if I can, and if I don't know how to answer, I will investigate and I will answer. I will try to help always. Always, obviously, within the respect and understanding here that I'm here for helping, and anything you need, you can text in the show more section, okay? Let's sign and let's finish for today. This is DavidViadel23. DavidViadel23. You can say it as you want, and this is the Mandragon's Cave. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed this small explanation, this small session, and feel free to follow, subscribe, and all these things, and share with your friends to see if there's someone who wants to learn as well. This is activities that you can do with your kids in school if you're a teacher, with your kids at home, with your parents and family, Sunday, chilling at home, drawing textures, drawing rocks, and yeah, I hope you like it. See you in the next one. Bye.